So I felt so badly about not being in the women's club. I said, I want to help y'all. What can I do? And the most darling Southern woman called me Virginia Honeycutt Ransford Holmes. Hello, darling. This is Virginia Honeycutt Ramsford Holmes. We would like to put your old house on tour. I said, tour? Yes, the Christmas tour. Now, we had just moved in, old house, okay? It wasn't finished. I said, oh, Virginia, I would love to put my house on tour. So I hung up the phone and looked at my husband. I said, we're on tour. He said, we have the furniture. He was correct. So I called my decorator friend. I said, I'm on tour. I don't have furniture. He said, I'll take care of it. So a week before the tour, he backs up a big old truck. And my house was furnished. And y'all, it looked fabulous. But there was one problem. We have a small community. So the tourees would walk in my house and say, isn't that Virginia Smith's end table? No, but I know that's Helen Hurlong's sofa. And I know that that is Dixie's lamp because we gave it to her for a wedding present.
Years and years ago, I saw this incredibly funny guy that I knew did stand-up. And he came into the National Speakers Association. And when he hit the ground running on the speaking platform from the comedy platform, he became a household name. Steve Rizzo is truly one of the funniest, most creative, and deep. I mean, y'all, this guy's deep. He's just not all funny. And I've asked him to share his journey, a little bit of his comedy and humor. You're going to love him. He and I have done shows together. I've been privileged to share the platform with this wonderful person. I consider him a great friend, although I hadn't seen him in a while. Hintity, hint, hint. But I'm going to unmute my buddy, Steve Rizzo. Here we go. Hi, sugar.
Hey, beautiful. How are you? It's so good to see you.
How are you? It's good to see you. Now, you talk some Southern.
Yeah. I could talk a little Southern Brooklyn. That's about it, though. You know, it's really funny. As you were introducing me, I'm saying, oh, my God, I realize how much I miss you because, you know, you were one of the first people at NSA that I clung on. I cling to you. I just, you know, as a matter of fact, I think you introduced me on my first general session. I asked you to do it. That was in New Orleans, wasn't it? Didn't you introduce me?
No, I'm going to grab that one because it would be an honor to introduce you anywhere. Hey, you know, the funniest thing I remember that you did, which I knew you were totally brilliant, and I'll let that sink in for everybody. So seriously, I lost my camera. That's back in the days when we didn't have phones with cameras. And I left it in the ballroom, and you went with me to try to find it. Do you remember this?
Yes.
And we went to housekeeping, and
oh my God, yeah.
You remember that mean woman? I mean, she was like the gatekeeper. Yeah. And you did a whole comedy routine on a Q-tip that was in a trash can, and you said, "There it is," and you pulled out this dirty Q-tip, and you did a whole bit, and it made her laugh so hard. Yeah, it's the power of humor. That she turned around and started looking for my camera, and that's where it was.
Yeah, I was, you know, it's fun. It's a good thing I found the Q-tip too, because I think I was just about to give her a piece of my mind, but which really wouldn't have made things better at all.
No, I've heard you do that.
That was my New York thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, your New York thing. Well, speaking of the experiences we've had, one of the most fun things, you know, I'm going to talk about when NSA gets greased.
When it gets what?
Greased. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
Summer loving, no, summer's wife is having a party.
Oh my God. Grease, yeah. Oh, we had a blast doing that. I mean, we got into that though. That we how many weekends did we rehearse that?
I think we flew to Nashville.
I flew to Nashville quite a few weekends, and we spent a lot of time rehearsing those songs, and it was fun. It was a blast.
It was brilliant. I tell you, I had Jeff Slutsky on and we talked about parodies. And I think he's going to share lots of his parodies at our foundation event. We're going to do a show. And my gosh, you were so funny in that. What character were you? Were you the John Travolta?
I was John Travolta thing, yeah. But can't you see the resemblance? No, yeah, I was John Travolta, and I remember the fun we had. And it was a little disappointing in a way too, because I remember Cindy Kabika's mic wasn't working, and remember they equal out the microphones. So
Yeah,
but we had a blast doing. Everyone
we had a
loved it.
blast. Yeah, she did the "Look at me, a CSP" instead
Oh
of
my
"Look at
God, you
me, a
remember the
CSP."
songs? That
I
was like
remember everything about that.
1999.
Was that? Good Lord, that just doesn't seem like it was so long ago. Well, speaking of you, darling. Um, so we have so many of Jeannie's folks that follow this show, which I'm very privileged. Thank you, Ellen D. So, as we talk about how we make people laugh to remember the message, what is one of your favorite ways to drive home a message using something funny?
Well, I think the key to my success, there are three things as a speaker I'm talking about now. The attention span of the average audience today, and I think this is very minimal, very, very minimal. And unless a speaker has some kind of entertaining value to captivate that audience, you run a very strong risk of losing their attention, because what they'll do immediately is they'll just start doing this. And a lot of them are very rude doing it. Their phones will go off, and not only will they just get up and walk out, they'll answer it in the audience. So my first 10 minutes, I'll do nothing but make them laugh. I don't know what I'm going to say when I'm going to make them laugh, but I'll do it. I realize I got their attention. They trust me. They're relaxed. You can see their shoulders are very relaxed. And then I weave in this very important message. The message now that I'm giving them is, I show them how to transform their mindset from failure to success, from unhappiness to fulfillment, and from lack to abundance. And it's done in an entertaining way. And the humor goes, it's like an emotional roller coaster. I guess one of the best compliments I get is they'll say, "Gee, never have I learned so much and laughed so hard in one sitting. Thank you." That type of thing.
Oh my gosh, that's a testimonial that needs to go all over the place when it comes to you.
Well, yeah, I love doing it because I can never let go of that funny side of me. But just as intense is the serious side. I mean, that's another thing I learned as a speaker. My two greatest gifts were my ability to make people laugh and the art of telling a story. Every time I give someone a common sense success strategy, as I call it, or a shifting habit to get to a better place in life, I always follow it up, not just with a story, but a true story, a personal story. And some of them are very emotional. And the greatest gift that I realized, and that comes from that higher part of myself, and it wasn't easy for me to do, was for me to become very vulnerable and not, you haven't seen me in a while. And I went through a lot of stuff in the past 8 years of my life. And when I started revealing to the audience what I went through, and they noticed that vulnerability, and it's not a woe is me story. It's nothing like that. It's like, hey, I get it. We all have crap to deal with. And I think the blessing in that is that I know they're looking at me and they're saying, wow, if this guy can go through what he went through, there's hope for me. And you know what, Jane? I know a lot of people, a lot of speakers that won't mention any names, that had some major addictions, drug addictions, alcohol addictions, all kinds. And I see how powerful they are on the platform. And I always ask them, why aren't you revealing that part of yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Why wouldn't you do that? And they said, I can never do that. I said, you're cheating yourself and them. I said, you have every right to do that. As a matter of fact, it's an obligation. And they said, why? And it's the same reason that I just gave you, is because they're sitting in the office. There's a lot of people that have addictions. There
Yeah.
are a lot of people that are going through a lot of crap. I said, and if they could see you with all the books that you've written on the New York Times bestsellers list, and you went through that and you're here at this level in life, that's the greatest gift you can give them, because they're saying, wow, there's hope for me. But they
Yeah.
won't do it. And I am amazed at that. I am amazed at that.
You know what? I don't think they have conclusion. I think only when you share from the platform those stories that cut your heart. And in your situation, I would call it, and me too. I mean, I've got a dark side. I mean, it's not like gruesome dark, but I
Yeah.
think that we latch on to humor and comedy, and it's because we've had to find it ourselves. And when we tell people you got to find the levity in that, it's because we've walked that road. But if they don't have conclusion, they're not going to talk about it. Is what I
No,
really,
that's the thing. And, and that part of them comes from the ego. So you're
I,
saying you just want people to see that one part of yourself, but that's not about all who you are. As a matter of fact, your dark side, when you overcome that, is the most empowering thing that could ever happen to you. And you are now connected to that authentic part, the higher part, the God part of you, whatever you want to call it. And
mhm.
some people just they won't do it. So, but I
No.
have found that has been my greatest gift as a speaker now, is allowing them to see that other side of me.
Well, give me an example of how you can weave a poignant part of your presentation using a humorous example. How would you do that?
Well, I let people know right from the get-go. There's a point, not from the get-go, but halfway through my whatever presentation I'm giving, on how to use these strategies to elevate themselves to a better place. And one person said to me, "Well, that's easier said than done."
Mm,
And I looked at her and I said, "Well, anything in life is easier said than done, but that doesn't mean it can't be done." So
that's
she said,
right.
"Well, what stuff did you ever go through in your life?" And I said, "You're looking at someone who was voted least likely to succeed in his senior class in high school. I was told by a guidance counselor when I was 14 years old in front of my mom and dad." And this is exactly what he said, because he asked me, "What do you want to do with your life?" And more than anything, eighth grade, 14 years old. My mom and dad are sitting next to me. He goes, "What would you like to do with your life, Steve?" "I want to be a teacher." He took a deep breath. My father looked at me and said, "What?" And he said, "Well, let's just say Stephen doesn't have what it takes to go to college." The sad truth is that my mom and dad believed him. So did
Yeah.
I. They were from the old school. They were great parents. They didn't know any better. So they said, this man's got to know what he's talking about. Look at his title, guidance counselor. Hell, if he doesn't know, who does? So
That's
not only did I let this idiot tell me what I couldn't do, I let him tell me what I could do. And then in my senior class, I was voted least likely to succeed. Unknowingly, I took those labels, those toxic labels, into my adult life. My philosophy for a great part of my life was, don't try and you can't fail.
right. Yeah.
And even if I did try and it didn't work the first time, I would never try it again. Don't make a fool
Yeah.
out of yourself. And for many years, but then I realized that I had a gift, um, that God gave me, and that was my humor being.
Yeah.
And I love that phrase. That was my first book, if you remember, Becoming a Human
Yes.
Being. And
Yes.
everyone on this planet has a humor being within them. Unfortunately, most people go their entire lives never knowing they have this gift. Your
Yeah.
humor being is of your higher nature. It's the part of you that always brings out the best in you, and it, especially during tough times, what your humor being can give you more than anything else is peace of mind and emotional stability. And this is one of the catalysts, which, by the way, I love this question that you asked. So I'm just shifting it into a different direction. Um, this is it was this humor being thing that started sparking interest when I was doing stand up, because there were points in my stand up career where I started saying, there's something more to stand up than just making the people laugh. And I couldn't figure it out. And I kept asking the question, what is it? And one time I was on stage, there were a couple of thousand people. It was at a theater in the audience, maybe 3,000 people. And I had this epiphany. Now, this is the weirdest thing. They're in tears, hysterical. All right.
Yeah.
And by
You're
the way,
funny.
yeah, I know. and back in my stand-up days, I was quite blue too. So that was my thing. But anyway, they
Yeah.
were laughing, and I was in this zone. And in the middle of laughing, another part of me, which is weird because I didn't lose my timing, but there was another part of me thinking, oh my God, look at these people. They're having a great time because of me. And then I started thinking, some people are in this audience are going through a divorce. Maybe they're having financial difficulties. Maybe they were a loved one and afflicted with some kind of illness. But for this hour and a half that I'm on stage, their problems, their challenges, whatever they were, didn't own them because they simply allowed themselves, and that's the key phrase, allowed themselves to take time out to laugh. So I got off the stage, I went backstage and I started writing, and I came up with this phrase that I use in my newest book that just came out. Laughter is the pit stop in the rat race of life, and that it gives you enough emotional fuel and repairs to get back into the race again. But the
Oh,
initiative,
that's a good one.
yeah, but the initiative and the proficiency by which we allow ourselves to laugh comes from what I call your humor being. And the more we use it, the more it becomes a part of who we are. The problem that we have in this country is that we are stifling our laughter genes, our humor genes, because we are becoming so damn politically correct that we're
Oh, yeah.
stifling this gift that was given to us. And uh, comedians are having a very tough time today.
Oh, absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
now theaters and colleges and comedy clubs are hiring special bodyguards to sit in the audience, and all it takes is two people out of 1,000 to start yelling at the comedian, heckling them. You shouldn't
Oh,
be
yeah.
saying that. There's something wrong with that. You have no right to say that, because they think in their mindset that they're being offensive to a certain group of people, and that's not the way it is. They never realize that, wow, there are 2,000 other people in this audience laughing their asses off. Did you ever think there might be something wrong with your perspective?
Yeah.
So my point is, and thanks for allowing me to reveal this, because I think it's very important. People need to know that there's a difference between laughing at something that's serious and allowing yourself to laugh off the fear or the negative connotation of the subject matter. And that's why we have this God-given gift, laughter. It's one of the greatest gifts that God ever gave us. It's to help us to face these serious topics, these serious issues, and laugh off the fear that represents the subject matter. You know, well,
That's perfect.
you remember the sitcom MASH?
Oh, yeah.
Remember Alan Alda played the
Yeah.
part
Oh,
of
yeah.
Hawkeye? How many times did you see him in the operating room and his hands are inside, some kids' insides, blood splurting all over the place, bodies are being brought in by the dozens, bombs are bursting, and they're out of medical supplies. And what is he doing in the middle of all this? He's cracking jokes.
I'm trying to find some humor.
But by cracking jokes, he's not negating the seriousness of the subject matter. He just intuitively knew that his humor being was the only saving grace in a place where there seems to be so little hope. If anything, his sense of humor was giving him the courage to do what needed to be done, which was to save lives. Now, I know some of you, your viewers, listeners right now might be saying, well, it's a good example, Steve, but let's face it, it was only a TV show. Yeah, but very few people know, and you can look this up yourself, that MASH was written from the memoirs from a doctor that was in the MASH unit during the Korean War. And the reason why they chose these particular memoirs was because of the sick humor that was depicted, that they used to deal with the challenges that they were confronted with day in and day out.
That's
You know,
incredible. And how popular was MASH? People got that. You know,
huge.
I mean, that was one of the most popular shows ever. And it's because that people tapped into that. You know, we need to find some laughter and levity. And look, they're doing the absolute worst thing you can possibly be doing,
Yep.
but yet they're finding a way to cope. And that's, you're so right, because in this day and age, with the tail wagging the dog, you get a couple of people, the tail wagging the dog, and it's stifling all of us. I mean, a lot of meeting planners anymore, you know, I put on my questionnaire, what do I need to stay away from? And not just out of respect, but if you feel that the audience and you can take them to a fun level and maybe throw in a zinger, why not? You know, and then people laugh harder.
Yep.
And I think, I don't know, I agree with you there, because there is such an attack on what makes us laugh and how we can make fun, but not making fun of the situation as much as we're trying to get those innards to joggle a little bit with
I
giggles and
agree.
laughter.
If you
It's
could
hard.
find humor in anything, you can survive it. I remember 3
It's true.
days, 2 or 3 days after 9/11, and I was watching the news, and of course, it hit me like a ton of bricks. There was a reporter, and she was holding the mic, and you could see how emotionally distraught she was, but she was strong and she was doing a great job. And she's looking at these firemen and she's interviewing them one by one, and these policemen and these volunteers that jumped into the debris covered in soot. And this one big fireman had a bandage around his head. There was a blood stain on it. His one arm was in a sling. And she just goes up to him and says, I need to ask you this question. How is it that you have the courage to go into that debris and look for survivors and bodies? How do you get the courage to do that in your condition? He took a deep breath. It looked like he was going to get a little emotional. He went up to her. He grabbed the microphone and he said 2 things, lady. He goes, number 1, I'm a fireman. Number 2, I'm from New York. And he did this. Everyone laughed and applauded. However, that laughter and applause only lasted about 7 seconds. That's all. But my point is, sometimes a couple of seconds is all you need to catch your second wind.
No, that's so
Sometimes
true.
a couple of seconds is all you need to get back into the game again. Laughter gives you that couple of seconds over and over again. We've got to lighten up. We really do.
Yeah, we definitely are missing that in the world. Now, you talked about your book, and show everybody your book, Conversations with Bob, and it's done great, Steve. I've been keeping up with you. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, this
It's
book is
neat.
like I said, it's the main reason why I was put on this planet. I realized it as I was writing it. And there's even a chapter in there called Unleash Your Humor Being.
Yeah,
And it's Bob. Bob is God.
right.
Bob is God, and he's talking. It's a dialogue between 2 characters. Bernie resides in the negative zone, where challenges get blown out of proportion and problems turn into emotional havoc. He blames everyone, especially God, for his life not working. And Bob gives Bernie what he calls common sense success strategies and shifting habits to turn his life around. But he also lets Bernie know that he's the biggest problem.
Yeah,
Bernie says, well, I prayed, you never answered. He goes, I answered your prayers. It's just that you pray with the same negative attitude you have about your whole life, and yet you expect a miracle. So then Bernie says, well, of course I expect a miracle. Isn't that your job? Aren't you supposed to create miracles? And Bob says, well, you ever hear the saying, God helps those who help themselves? And he
hmm
says, I heard it my whole life. And he says, well, apparently you have no idea what it means. He said, Bernie, I could perform miracles, but you have to meet me halfway. And you're not
hmm
doing that. You can't pray for peace of mind and then get in traffic and start cursing at everyone in traffic. You
hmm
can't pray for success. And when you set out to achieve a goal and you pray for success, a week later, when you're not getting what you want, you start cursing and you start doubting that it's ever going to happen. I plant that seed possibility, but you keep squashing it from taking root with your negative attitude about life. So that's what the book is about. And
Yeah,
humor is one of the greatest strategies.
yeah. Faith is the evidence of all things unseen.
Yeah.
I mean, is that what you pray into being and trust and have faith to believe for? It's hard. And Zig Ziglar coined it best. He said, fear and faith are opposite. It's like oil and water. And he
Yeah.
said, fear is false evidence appearing real. And we
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
we live
Yeah.
in a lot of that. One thing that I talk about, and a lot of people, it resonates with folks, is the hardest thing was when I had to say goodbye to my mother. And she had a great sense of humor. And she told me, before she passed away, she said, I'm going to make you laugh. And she paused and she said, after I'm dead. I thought, oh my gosh, what in the world is that woman coming back? I mean, to haunt me.
Yeah.
Mama said, no, I'm going to make you laugh. So I noticed when I was cleaning out the house, which was super hard, she had funny things all over the place. I mean, mugs with the worst kind of sayings. I went, Mom, I couldn't believe it. Some
That's my
pictures,
point.
funny postcards. Yeah, she wanted me to laugh. But the thing that really got me was this little envelope. And she had written on it, Eleanor's Sunday school joke. But that was code. because Mama didn't tell Sunday school jokes. That was just her little language for something fun. So I
Yeah.
opened it and I started reading it, and it said, a woman's getting on a bus with a real tight skirt on. She tries to lift her leg. She can't get her leg up. She reaches back and she unzips her skirt just a little bit. Well, she tries one more time to get that leg up. She still couldn't get it up. And she's getting super nervous because there's a line of people getting on that bus. So she reaches back and unzips it a little bit more. Third time, still could not get her leg up. So she reaches back and unzips it all the way down and feels these strong hands lifting her to the top of those stairs. And she wheels around and sees a guy and says, "How dare you be so fresh?" She said, "Me fresh? You've unzipped my pants 3 times." Now, that pretty much is an old joke.
Yeah.
You know, let's just say it's an old joke.
Yeah.
But I always position that at the very end. And I do PowerPoint because you're right. People are so ADHD. They don't even know what you just, it's so
Yes, exactly.
humor, visuals. But that one story people love. And they'll say, that is so funny. People, okay, it's an old joke, but that's okay. If I say this was my mama's gift to me, and it was the gift of laughter and perspective.
And isn't that what you'll always remember? That's what laughter does. It makes you realize when that person passes on, the spirit of that person will live on forever. And it's part of laughter that makes you realize that the spirit moves on. We all move on and turn in life, but I want people to remember me with the gifts that I gave. You know what I mean? And one of them is laughter. Remember my brother Michael? I told his story, the one that's 100% disabled from the Vietnam War.
Right.
Well, he passed away last Christmas Eve.
Oh, goodness.
Now here's a blessing in disguise in this. The pandemic hit everybody. 2020 and 2021, everything was canceled. I wasn't traveling at all. But the blessing is that I got to spend 5 days a week with him. He only lived 7 minutes from me, and his body was dwindling. Okay, so I spent almost every day with him. I was the one that was taking him to the doctors. I was helping this tough Marine with medals from the Vietnam War, 100% disabled. The wounds were consuming him, never complaining, but he always had a sick sense of humor. And that's what kept us going. It was my bantering back and forth to see who could come up with the sickest joke, right?
Sick the other.
So, yes. So, about 5 days before he passed on, he said, listen, he brought me in, he brought the family, and he said, "I'm surrendering now. I'm giving up. I can't do this anymore." He goes, "I'm not quitting, and I want you to know that, but I'm surrendering to a higher power. I can't, and I don't feel I'm supposed to anymore." So we had hospice come in, and you know what happens then. They prepare him.
Yeah.
So I'm saying this because it's such a gift. The last night that he was alive, he's sitting in his chair, and I walked into the house, and as I always do, I grab his hand and I said to him, "How you doing, Mike?" And he goes, "Well, Steve, I'm dying. How are you doing?" So I looked at him and I said, "Well, apparently I'm doing a hell of a lot better than you're doing." And he started laughing like you. I'm talking about uncontrollable tears. And so was I. 6 hours later, he passed away.
Oh my gosh.
And I have the greatest gift.
Oh yeah.
That I was the one that captivated the most important of his life, and we had that together, and that's what I'll always remember him by.
Oh, that's awesome. Last week Nito asked me to sing for his Rotary Thanksgiving program for High Point. It was at High Point University, and I did a couple of songs, and I was really honored to be there. But 25 or 30 years before that, the speaker was W. Mitchell. And Mitchell's story. Of course, he was 3rd-degree burns over 90% of his body. And then he was in a motorcycle accident, which I think the motorcycle accident was first. He's a paraplegic, and it just whole story. So when he's telling it, Steve, now this is self-deprecating humor though. When he's telling it, you are about to explode with emotion. You just want to sit down. You want to put your head down and just cry a bucket. And all of a sudden he shifts it to the doctor comes in, the plastic surgeon. And he's all, there are no mirrors in burn units, is what he says.
Yeah.
And the doctor says, do you have a photograph of yourself before your accident? And Mitchell said, yes, I do. For some reason, my driver's license did not get burned, and my picture's on that. And he says that I'm very dramatic. The doctor walks over, pulls the driver's license, looks at his picture and says, oh, dear God, pause. I know we can do better than this. Well, everybody is so steeped with emotions.
Yeah.
There was this massive release.
Yep.
Now, that was 30 years ago. I still remember that. I still remember that moment. Because it was one of the most powerful moments of being able to laugh through the tragedy of his situation. Emotion is emotion. That's so weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, you could be high or low. You could still come to that spot of levity and laughter and humor to deal with it. It's true.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I teach my grandkids that. Now, as a matter of fact, I'll tell you another bounce back story. My grandson Julian was in a play about 5 months ago, The Wizard of Oz. And I do a great impression of the lion. I was the lion in the play for NSA. So I'm coaching him with his lines. He had this incredible lion's outfit. And the night before, I'm going over his lines with him, and I'm looking at him. I said, Julian, what's the matter with you? He's 11 years old. He said, Pop, what if I forget my lines? Because what if I forget it? I said, well, that could happen. I said, but always stay in character. Remember, as soon as you hit that stage, you're the lion. You're the lion. And what is the lion? He said, well, he's cowardly and he doesn't have any confidence. And exactly. So just remember, you stay in character. The lines will come back, but don't panic. Opening night, the auditorium is packed. I'm sitting next to my son, and he was doing okay, but the song that the lion sings. So the piano plays for the intro, dun, 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 and he goes to sing, and he pauses. And I look at my son. My son looks at me. The piano goes again, dun, 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 and he pauses again. He forgot the lines. What does he do? He goes like this. He said, "This is exactly what he did." He went. And he goes to the audience. He goes, I'm a loser. I knew I was going to do this. I messed the whole thing up. I ruined the whole play. I'm so sorry. The audience was howling, gave him a standing ovation. And he started taking bows, the ham that he is. He went right back into character. The piano played again and finished the song. It was amazing. It was
oh my goodness, Steve, that's a gift. Not many young people that age could do that. They would crumble.
Humor being to the rescue. That's what I'm saying.
That is so funny because I know that Jason Hewlett talks about being in character. And he said, I'll put the funky glasses on and it's up to the audience to connect the character. He said, I know I try to sound like Elton John, but I don't sound like Elton John. But me with the glasses and the perception. So the advice you gave him, stay in character, don't break character.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I love that. It's kind of like, because a lot of these folks that are listening are Jeannie's friends, her very famous baton story. When you remember the girl, she can't twirl at all. And Jeannie's emceeing. And so gets to the point where the girl has got this baton and she's horrible. She's doing it to the hustle. Dun, 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 dun. That's all she knew to do. Because talent's like 50%. God help us all. It's different now. But she threw it up and the baton got stuck in the curtain. And then she all of a sudden stayed in character. And she got her hand, no baton, went dun, 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 dun. Then she really started twirling. It was nothing. And so Jeannie in the middle of it is so funny. She's got an old fella on the front row, which I'm sure this is all fluffed up, which we do. And this old guy says, I'll be doggone, she's twirling that thing so fast, I can't even see it. So that's staying in character. Audiences, they're forgiving and audiences can be fun. And like you said, you just tap into you. And Zig Ziglar said, love your audience and they'll love you back.
Yeah. No, I got off from a ticket years ago when I was in California. With my humor being. Now, it could have worked the other way, but I don't know. a cop pulls me over. I'm in right off of Marina Del Rey because that's where my apartment was when I was living there. And he pulls me over and he goes, "Didn't you see that stop sign?" And I went, "Yeah, I saw it. Just didn't see you hiding behind it." So he goes, "Are you drinking?" I said, "Are you buying?" So he goes, "I'll be right back." He goes into his car. Now I'm looking at him from the rearview mirror. And I'm looking at him, and all of a sudden he's laughing, hitting the dashboard and the steering wheel, laughing. He came back and he said, "I've never done this before, and I probably never will, but I had a really bad day today, and you made me laugh. Thank you. I'm letting you go, but be careful. They're called stop signs for a reason." And I looked at him. I said, "Man, I appreciate it." He goes, "No, thanks again for making me laugh." And I got away with a ticket because of that. And not only that, I made his day. I took him out of a bad mood.
Well, I got pulled too several times, but the last time I got stopped, the cop came up and said, "Do you know you were speeding?" I said, "I do. I'm in a hurry. So if you're going to give me a ticket, let's get on it. Come on, I'm in a hurry." I said, I know I'm speeding. I know." And so he went back to the car, and I thought, well, it's a do or die moment. You know, he's just going to come back with a warning or a ticket. And Thomas looked at me, my husband, and said, "I can't believe you didn't make something up." I'm thinking,
Yeah.
and Mr. Integrity over here.
Yeah.
I said, "No, I'm in a hurry. I just told him the truth." He hands me a warning and says, "Thank you for telling me the truth." That, by the way, that was pretty funny.
That's funny. That is very
Same kind
funny.
of thing. I
Yeah,
said,
man.
"Yeah, I'm in a hurry, man. Hurry up. Just give me the ticket. Give me the ticket. I gotta go."
Yeah, yeah.
And
And,
this what made him laugh. He said, "You promised to slow down." I said, "You gonna be watching? Are you gonna call your buddies? Because I probably won't." And he started laughing. So
yeah.
there's a lot to
I hope when a lot of people watch this and just realize, because that's where this whole discussion has been going, the power of humor, which is good, which is good. Maybe we should just stick on the topic. I don't know, but um, it's become pretty scary though on how we are stifling our laughter genes, and we've got to get back to that part of us that just it's the great bounce back factor. And the
Yeah.
more you use it, the more it becomes a part of you. Are our children need to, my grandchildren, I always instilled, never forget the ability to laugh, even during tough times.
Especially with this crowd coming up, because they are told so many conflicting things.
Yep.
And to be politically correct, to be able to function in society, I mean, we're just all becoming laughless clones walking around. I've told this before, but when I was up in Minnesota, I told a funny story. It was Al Walker's wife, Margaret, and she has I call it a ministry, but it's really not, but it's just her passion. She works with juvenile delinquents, and these kids have heard everything in the we call it the juvie system in South Carolina. And so she was after spring break. She's real sweet and Southern. You know how Margaret talks like this, and she said, "Hey, boys and girls," she said, "Let me tell you what happened. Right after spring break, right before I came to work, I was eating breakfast on my kitchen table, and there was a snake wrapped around the leg of the table." And one of the little boys said, now they've heard everything. So, "What'd you do, Miss Walker?" She said, "Well, honey, I ran next door and got the hoe." He said, "Well, what did she do?" Well, I told that story. Out of 500 people, 2 people were offended by the hoe.
Oh my God. It took me a second. No, it's like, oh God, no, that's funny. That's funny.
It's funny. But so boy, the meeting planner just, there were 2 people. I said, "Yeah, there were 2 people." Yeah, 2.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just, again, tail wagging the dog when it comes to comedy. I look for humor as you do. I'll see something funny and I'll write it down immediately. And I say, "Don't forget this. Don't forget this. This could be a really
You have to. If you don't write it down immediately or record it in your phone, you have to, because otherwise you'll forget it. I used to tell upcoming comedians, give me some advice. And well, the first advice I would give them is, if you're just starting out, never invite your family or friends, because you're going to bomb the first 5 or 10 times. You're going to bomb big time. And it's okay if you bomb in front of people you don't know. But if you bomb in front of your friends and family, it could be humiliating. And there's a chance that you might never want to go back on the stage again.
Oh, that's the hardest is that crowd.
Yeah,
Jeez.
and the second thing of advice is I said, whenever you know something's funny, whether you're in the shower, you're driving, and especially if you're driving, pull over immediately and write it down or record it, because it'll never come out the same way again. When you say to yourself, "Oh, I'll remember it later," it's the timing and it's the certain words that you use that made it funny. Sometimes a shift in words could make a funny joke, a hysterical joke, you know.
Do you
So
coach? Do you do any coaching, Steve? Because you would be great as a humor coach. I don't
no,
know if your
I never.
brain works.
I've been asked to do it, but no, but I do help people. But I don't. I've never coached anyone that had to add humor. As a matter of fact, my first big gig at National Speakers Association was I did a workshop, and I think there were like 200 people in this workshop. So an NSA used to be really crowded, and it was in. I think it was in. Gee, I don't even know where it was, but I talked about how to add humor in your presentations. And that's when my name started going around. That's when a lot of
Oh no,
bureaus.
you went totally viral, honey bun. The minute we saw you, we went, "Where's he been?"
Well,
All
no,
the
that's a good point. I was really I was really nervous making that transition from comedy to speaking. And my opening acts back in the day were Chris Rock. They opened for me before they were famous. Sam
good
Kinison,
gosh.
Drew Carey. Drew Carey was my roommate. Rosie O'Donnell. I shared the marquee with Rodney Dangerfield, Jerry Seinfeld, Kevin James, uh, um, Eddie Murphy. And I couldn't understand at some point. I hope you don't mind. This is going to be a bit of a story, but I think it's
No,
important.
please tell it.
Um, I couldn't understand why my opening acts were getting all the big breaks. Why was an opportunity knocking on my door? And then I realized it was. I realized I was afraid to open the door. I had a
Uh,
fear of success and a fear of failure. I mean, of both.
we
And
all have.
and you know why? Because those negative labels of being voted least likely to succeed and not being smart enough and being told by a guidance counselor I didn't have what it takes to go to college, um, they came back to haunt me with a vengeance. So what I started doing is that my management team and my agents, I had the top management team in the business, every time they said to me, there's an audition at the improvisation or the comedy store in LA for a sitcom or a movie, we have you in for it. I would make an excuse and say, well, I can't do it because I'm booked in Omaha, Nebraska at a comedy club. And they would say, cancel it, we'll get someone to cover. But I would say, no, it's not the right thing to do. And they were getting very upset with me. I was afraid, though. It was more important to me. I was kidding myself to be um, a big fish in a small pond than a little fish in the ocean. So when you audition for the big breaks for a TV show or a sitcom or a commercial, in the audience, it's nothing but industry people, producers, directors, casting directors, and eyes are on you. And to me, that represented authority figures, and it represented what if I fail? I never even conceived of what if I kick ass. So that
Mhm.
took control. That was the determining factors. And when I found out what happened, I was humiliated and very upset with myself. So I went on a quest to better myself. And I mean a quest. I read almost every self-help book you could possibly imagine. I went to Tony Robbins seminars. I read Norman Vincent Peale. I read Napoleon Hill. I went to sleep with headphones, listening to affirmations. I went to spiritual seminars. This took years. And through the years, a major shift took place in my life. My belief system was second to none. And everyone noticed it. As that was happening, something else was happening. I kept saying, there's something else I'm supposed to be doing besides stand up. I don't know what it is. And it was at a Tony Robbins seminar. When I'm watching him, there's thousands of people and he has total control. Something made me pick up a pen and I wrote it down and I wrote, I can do this. And I put the pen down. About 20 minutes later, I picked up that pen again. I went, I should do this. And I put the pen down. I wasn't even realizing I was writing this, Jane. And then I wrote, damn it, I'm doing this. I still have that paper in my other room in a frame. And
I
that's when
just think that your path took a turn for the better because you had a heartfelt message that
yeah,
needed to be shared. And there was a method to how I just believe that God took you to this level because your whole desire was to bring humor and laughter.
yeah,
You got down in the trenches and pulled out why,
yep.
and then put it on paper, put it in your speeches, and it's revolutionized who you are. And
Yeah.
that's awesome. Not many people will go dig deep like that.
But it was scary. But it was,
Very.
and I agree with you, and I appreciate you even saying that's exactly what happened. So this part of me now is saying I want to do something else, and I even started inquiring how to become. I didn't even know what to call it. Is it a motivational speaker? What do they call these people? And for quite some time, and as I'm saying, I'm living in LA, and Drew Carey is my roommate, and I came home one day from an audition. He said, how did it go? I said, it went very well. He goes, what do you want to do for dinner? I said, something came up. I said, Drew, you do what you want. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going home. And we had an argument because my home was on Long Island. I was married at the time. And I had to be in California for the auditions. He goes, what do you mean you're leaving? You're not doing this. I said, you know what I'm going to do because you're going to do that speaking crap. And I said, yeah, whatever it takes. He goes, but you're so close to making it. I said, how can I be close to something that I don't want to do anymore? And that's when it hit me with such clarity. So I called I got to finish this story because it just sparked something. I called up my wife and I said, I'm coming home. And she totally understood because she knew what I was going through. Now, you got to understand, I did stand up for 25 years and I was at the pinnacle. I mean, the industry was very interested in me and I was no longer interested in them. And I knew nothing about the speaking business. I was like, well, how do I get into this? What do I do? But I knew I had to do it. My manager threatened to sue me because he spent years priming me for this time in my life. And I said a prayer before I left California. And the prayer was, I'm leaving in a week. I know nothing about this business. I'm inquiring. I'm getting bits and pieces. Please send me someone or something that can help me to make me realize that I'm doing the right thing here. And next weekend, I'm on a plane and I'm sitting next to this man and I'm really emotionally distraught. I could feel it. And I'm going, oh my God, I'm leaving California and I'm going home to do what I think I want to do. And I know nothing about this. What is wrong with you? You know, that big mouth inside my head is going back and forth. And this man is looking at me. He's very distinguished. He's in a 3-piece suit. He's got a very well-trimmed beard. And he's looking at me and I'm saying, please, God, I don't want to talk to him. I do not want to talk to him. And he goes, excuse me, I'm sorry. He goes, but you look familiar. And I said, I don't know where. Maybe I saw you on TV. And my Showtime special was just aired a month before that.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, well, maybe you saw me on Showtime. Oh, yeah, you're that Steve Rizzo. I said, Steve Rizzo. I go, man, you are one funny, blah, blah, blah. And we're talking a little bit. Finally, I was quiet again. 20 minutes later, he goes, I'm really sorry. He goes, and I hate to bother you, but I sense that something's wrong. Are you okay? And I was pretty amazed. And I said, actually, I just made a decision in my life and I don't know if it's the right decision. And he saw the emotion in my face. And I said, I want to do something else. And I just don't want to do stand up right now. I'm going to do it for a while to make money until I wean into this next business. But I know nothing about it. But I know in my heart, this is what I'm supposed to do. And he says, oh my God, what is it that you want to do? And I said, I want to be what you would call, I guess, a motivational speaker. And he's laughing. And I'm thinking he's laughing at me. Why would you leave a successful business at something you're so good at to do something you know absolutely nothing about? And I said, why are you laughing? He goes, well, and I told him, I said, before I came here, I said a prayer to send someone or something my way that can help me. And he goes, well, I'm the answer to your prayer. And I go, who are you? He said, my name is Al. He goes, and I'm the president of the New York chapter of the National Speakers Association.
Oh my God.
And I just went, and he goes, and I'm going to show you how. He
Oh my.
invited me. I know, Jane, he invited me to my first workshop, which was that next week, which was in Charlotte, North Carolina at the Omni Hotel. And
Right.
there I'm this little fish in this big pond thinking no one's going to know me. I got to start all over. Here's what blew me away. A lot of the people that were on the board, Vanna Novak, if you remember her and
Oh
all those
yeah.
others, right? They were coming up to me. They either saw me on my Showtime special or they saw me at their theater or comedy club in the area. I was already a celebrity and I didn't even have to introduce myself. Al was introducing me. She goes, "Oh my God, I know you. Oh my God, I know you." I left in such a high. So then I get home and there's a message from Vanna saying everyone was so impressed with you. Will you come to the convention, which is what I just told you before, and speak to a couple hundred of the top speakers in the country on how to add humor in their presentations. And that was the thing that launched my speaking career.
How
Bureaus, isn't that insane?
it just, just the fact that you would sit right there by somebody and that prayer was answered. And the rest is history. Because when you hit NSA,
Yeah.
it was like, oh my gosh, did you see Steve Rizzo? Did you see? I mean, you were just the buzz for years and years and years because everybody loves the way you have used your comedy. I remember you told me this. You said, standing up at a comedy club and dropping all the 4-letter words. And there's just more to me than that.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to talk about with people. And I agree with you when you say that all of a sudden you're seeing someone and there's a story behind this story, but honey, they ain't going there.
Yeah.
They are not digging up those dinosaur bones.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm like you. I'm thinking you're cheating your audience. You're cheating yourself.
Yeah.
People want to get deep within, like, what makes you like this? How did you do that? I mean, if you get, but you're right. Here's the big takeaway. If it's just one thing that I would like folks to walk away with, and see, you and I cut from the same cloth with all of this, is if she can do it, I can do it.
Yep.
I mean, I was told by my high school guidance counselor that, I was fired from teaching dyslexic children. I was told you're not college material, same thing you were. Nobody saw my strengths, only my weaknesses. And I remember, listen, I talked about the dyslexic part of me forever. Went to the Miss America pageant thinking, oh, never win, I'm not perfect. And I remember my high school principal heard me speak at an event. And he came up to me and I told that dyslexic story. He said, that woman just made that up so you would go to her school. She was starting a new school. I didn't know that. It took me 30-something years before I knew the truth.
Yeah.
But it got in here. You're not worthy to do this. You're not able to do this.
Yeah.
And I'm got this, wait a minute, watch me. I'll show you attitude. And not in a potty way, but same thing you did. You've taken the comedy, you've gone to a deeper level. And like, Nito always says this. He said, I'm going to be the president of High Point University because I want to take my knowledge and mold a generation of young people. He said, when you leave an audience and you put all those principles forth, you don't know what they're going to do with them. You hope they're going to put those into action, but I don't know. See, he had a different calling, and you go in comedy clubs, you make people laugh, you give them a mental vacation, and then what happens after that? What you're doing now is you're giving people a chance to challenge themselves, be better from the inside out, and grow and use humor all along the way. And that's a brilliant and that's a ministry in itselp.
I wouldn't change where I am for all the money in the world. I mean, just with all the trials and tribulations, I'll be 72 years old in February, and I really feel that my life at this point is just coming full circle, and that's why I've always followed the transition. My greatest things that I've learned is my greatest challenges, the things that I've cursed, have become my greatest blessings. And everything that I ever did, the stand-up, all took me to this point, this book, Conversations with Bob. As I said, it took me 7 years to write. 7 years, because every time I thought it was finished, God said, no, you're not.
I've loved this time with you, sweetheart. And I hope to see you really soon. Thank you for sharing your heart. Christmas is coming, and I am going to send one of my books. I've got 5 of them. These 2, Bury Me With My Pearls from a Mama. What Tatas Teach Us for breast cancer survivors. Bare Feet to High Heels was my first book. Rhinestones on My Flip Flops. This is a really good book. But y'all know my heart book is Sweet Tea Secrets from the Deep Fried South. Now I'm going to put my email address in here, and any of these products, whatever the postage is, you pay the postage. How about that? I'll send you the book while supply lasts. And I've got some CDs too. Oh, yeah, they are. This is just flat out comedy from Sirius XM. And here's a speech, my favorite speech. Don't throw tomatoes at my field of dreams. So email me at janejenkinsherlong@gmail.com. Pick one of these. I'll tell you what the postage is. And you could Venmo, you could PayPal, or whatever. And that would be a great gift.